Welcome in. Make yourself comfortable. We are thrilled you're joining us for today's deep dive.
Yeah, really glad to have you here.
Now, most of us already know the basic premise of Ernest Hemingway's 1952 classic, right? The Old Man and the Sea. You picture the aging Cuban fisherman.
Giant marlin.
Exactly. The days spent drifting out in the Gulf Stream. It's one of those stories that just feels, I don't know, baked into our cultural DNA, even if you haven't actually picked up a copy since, like, high school.
Which is probably a lot of people, honestly.
Oh, for sure. But today we are looking at a stack of incredibly compelling notes and a highly rated review. It got a 9.2 out of 10 to be exact.
That's a massive score.
It really is, and it makes a rather bold claim. The argument here is that if you actually sit down and read this book on a physical page, you might be entirely missing the point.
Which sounds a bit counterintuitive at first.
Right. But to really understand the profound depths of Hemingway's masterpiece, the work that essentially handed him the Nobel Prize in literature, you shouldn't read it. You need to hear it. We're exploring the audiobook experience today.
I really love this angle.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to figure out why an audio format completely changes the way this story hits you, we have to look past the basic plot and dive into what is actually happening out there on the water.
Yeah, because the surface level plot is really just a vessel.
Yeah.
The notes we're looking at argue that if you treat this like a simple fishing story, you just miss the actual weight of the text.
Right.
The physical act of hunting this giant marlin is basically just a backdrop.
Right.
What we are actually getting is a deeply intense look at perseverance, the sheer crushing weight of isolation, and the concept of finding absolute dignity in defeat.
It's heavy stuff.
It is. It's about the quiet heroism of just enduring.
Mm-hmm.
And that emotional terrain is vast, which is exactly why the medium you use to consume this story matters so much more than people realize.
I want to really ground this in the reality of the character situation before we get to the audio aspect, though, because the stakes for Santiago are incredibly high right from the jump.
Oh, absolutely.
The review we're looking at really emphasizes the psychological toll of his situation. He has gone 84 days without catching a single fish.
84.
Just put yourself in those shoes for a second. Imagine waking up, going to work every single day for nearly 3 months.
Doing grueling manual labor.
Right. Putting in 12 to 14-hour shifts of back-breaking physical labor, and your paycheck at the end of every single day is exactly zero.
It's devastating.
And not only that, but you live in a tiny community where everyone sees you coming home empty-handed. His reputation is completely shot. The villagers basically treat him like he's cursed.
Right. The social stigma is absolute. He is the definition of a pariah in this fishing village. And the notes highlight a detail that makes this even more heartbreaking. It's his relationship with his young apprentice, Manolin.
Yeah, that part really got to me.
Because the boy idolizes Santiago. But because Santiago has been so relentlessly unlucky, Manolin's parents actually force him to leave Santiago's boat and go work for a more successful fisherman.
It's just brutal practicality.
Exactly. It's practicality over loyalty. They have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But for Santiago, that means the one person who still looked at him with respect, his last real human connection, is severed. He is entirely alone, carrying the weight of this massive public failure.
So when he finally rows out into the deep waters on the 85th day and hooks this absolutely massive marlin, the stakes couldn't be higher. It sparks this exhausting multi-day battle where he is physically tethered to this huge animal.
Mm-hmm.
But based on the analysis we're looking at, the fish isn't even the real antagonist, is it?
No, not at all. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the physical fish is almost a MacGuffin. It's a catalyst for the real struggle. The actual substantive battle taking place on that little wooden skiff is entirely internal. Santiago is battling his own advancing age. He's fighting the creeping, terrifying doubt that maybe the villagers are right. And he really is just washed up.
Oh.
He is confronting the specter of total failure, and he's grappling with his own immense pride. The struggle on that boat is a test of willpower, where the physical strain, the line cutting into his back, his hands cramping up, is almost secondary to the psychological war happening inside his own head.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the medium itself, because this is the core of our deep dive today. Why does an audio format elevate this specific internal battle so much better than the printed page?
It's a great question.
I was looking through the critique of the audiobook, and it draws a really fascinating comparison about cognitive load.
Right, the effort it takes to process the story.
Exactly. When you read a physical book, you have to actively decode the words, and you, the reader, completely control the pacing. If you want to speed read, you can. But the notes argue that if you read the specific text too fast, your eyes just skim right past the emotional weight.
That's a crucial point, and it comes down to Hemingway's famous style. We always hear about his minimalist prose, but what does that actually mean for the reader? Hemingway wrote using the iceberg theory.
The 10% above the water.
Exactly. He gives you the 10% of the story that is above the water. The raw, simple facts, the short, choppy sentences. The other 90%, the heavy emotional weight, is meant to be felt beneath the surface.
So it's mostly subtext.
Yes. When you read those short sentences silently on a page, your brain naturally tries to rush through them. The text can actually look and feel a bit simplistic or abrupt. You might speed right past the line like, he did not know that he was no longer alone, without letting the profound sadness of it actually settle.
Right, because there's no visual cue telling you to slow down and feel it. But when you listen to the audiobook,
Exactly. When you listen to it, especially in the highly rated editions narrated by seasoned actors, that cognitive load shifts entirely. You're surrendering to the narrator's rhythm.
you're not driving the car anymore.
Right, you're just along for the ride. A skilled narrator knows exactly how to handle that 10% above the water. They know how to pause. They exercise immense emotional restraint. There's no melodrama, no overacting, no shouting.
Just the text.
They just let the rhythmic simplicity of those short sentences hang in the air. By slowing you down and removing the physical effort of reading, the audio format allows that hidden 90% of the emotion to just wash over you.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If the entire point of the story is about Santiago's extreme isolation out on the Gulf Stream, doesn't having a professional actor's voice right in your ear kind of ruin that lonely experience?
Again,
Well, doesn't it introduce another person into the boat with him?
it's a great question, but the review argues the exact opposite happens, largely because of how audio handles dialogue versus how a printed page handles it.
Okay, break that down for me.
When you read a book, you see quotation marks, you see paragraph breaks,
Yeah.
you constantly have visual cues separating what Santiago is thinking, what he's saying out loud, and what the narrator is describing. It's very structured. But in an audiobook, those visual boundaries disappear entirely.
Oh, that makes total sense. It all just blends together.
Precisely. Santiago's out there alone for days, and he starts talking to himself. He speaks out loud to the sea, he talks to the bird that lands on his boat, he talks to his own cramped hand, and he talks to the fish.
He's just projecting onto everything around him.
Yes, and in the audio format, because the quotation marks are gone, the lines between his internal thoughts, his spoken words, and the narrator's descriptions completely blur. You are quite literally just hearing one single, solitary voice echoing in your headphones.
So it actually pulls you deeper into his perspective.
Exactly. Instead of ruining the isolation, it amplifies it. Hearing that one lone voice against an imagined backdrop of total silence makes his profound loneliness incredibly tangible. It puts you right inside his deteriorating mental state.
The review actually uses a great phrase for this. They call it creating soundscapes of the mind. You aren't just absorbing the plot, you're feeling the atmosphere.
Soundscapes of the mind. I like that.
Yeah, if you close your eyes with your headphones on, the restrained narration makes you feel the vast, empty ocean imagery. You can almost hear the haunting creak of the wooden boat or the snap of the fishing line. The quietness of the performance emphasizes the massive, indifferent void of the ocean all around him.
And the pacing of the audiobook format leans into that immersion perfectly. The review makes a fantastic practical point here. This is a novella. It's not a 40-hour epic.
Right.
The entire audiobook runtime clocks in around 3 to 4 hours.
Which means you can easily do it in a single sitting.
Exactly. You can dedicate one long afternoon, or maybe a single road trip, to just existing in Santiago's world from the moment he leaves the shore to the moment he returns.
You aren't constantly stopping and starting.
Right. You don't break the spell by putting a bookmark in it and coming back 3 days later. That uninterrupted experience is crucial for feeling the relentless, exhausting duration of his struggle. You're enduring the weight alongside him.
That dynamic between Santiago and the ocean, and specifically between him and this giant marlin, brings up some of the heavier themes the notes dive into. On a surface level, everyone calls this a classic man versus nature story.
Sure, that's the standard textbook definition.
Right, but looking at the breakdown here, it's not a typical battle where the two sides hate each other. Santiago doesn't view this fish as an evil monster trying to ruin his life.
What's fascinating here is the absolute reverence he has for the marlin. The source material emphasizes that they are not bitter enemies. They're portrayed as equals.
He actually calls it his brother, doesn't he?
He does. Santiago repeatedly refers to the fish as his brother. He respects its power, its beauty, and its will to live, which perfectly mirrors his own. It's a psychological dialogue between two deeply resilient creatures. And that mutual respect feeds directly into the overarching theme of the entire piece, which is identity and dignity.
Right, because for Santiago, catching this fish isn't just about paying the bills.
Not at all. Fishing is not his job. It is his identity. It's the core of his existence. If he can't fish, he doesn't know who or what he is.
It's existential.
Completely.
Yeah.
And the notes point out a really beautiful distinction Hemingway makes about the concept of winning. Even if Santiago loses materially in this multi-day agonizing battle, even if he returns to port with absolutely nothing to sell, he never loses spiritually.
His spirit is untouched.
Yes, the dignity of his struggle remains completely intact. Hemingway is arguing that true victory is entirely internal. The story isn't about conquering nature. It's about maintaining your character, your pride, and your sense of self when you're pushed far beyond the absolute limits of your physical endurance.
I love how that reframes the whole story. It really isn't about the fish at all. But as much as we are praising this experience, I do want to make sure we're managing expectations.
That's fair.
We need to speak directly to you, the listener, with a really helpful caveat straight from the review notes. We've talked about how profound and emotionally heavy this audiobook is, but if you are expecting a fast-paced, action-packed thriller...
You're looking in the wrong place.
Exactly. If you want an epic adventure with...
Exactly. The beauty of this story doesn't lie in constant action or sudden plot twists. It lies in the subtle pauses during Santiago's reflections. It lies in the incredibly methodical, slow-burn buildup of tension as the days bleed together.
The reviewer actually describes the ending as having a heartbreaking calmness, which I think is just a perfect way to phrase it.
That really is the perfect description.
Right. It's a philosophical tone that is meant to linger with you, not an adrenaline rush. It asks you to sit with the discomfort of the struggle.
Which is exactly why the audiobook format is so vital here. It forces you to sit with that discomfort at the narrator's pace. You can't skip ahead to see if he catches the fish. You have to endure the quiet, the waiting, and the physical toll right alongside him. It's a shared endurance.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring all these insights together. If you're someone who wants to experience a true literary classic without feeling overwhelmed by dense text, The Old Man and the Sea in audio format is practically a cheat code.
It really is.
It takes this deceptively simple tale of an unlucky old man, a loyal boy who is forced to leave him, and a massive fish, and transforms it into a devastating, immersive experience. The audiobook format strips away the mechanical effort of reading Hemingway's minimalist, choppy prose. Instead, it allows the rhythm, the emotional restraint of the narrator, and those profound themes of internal dignity to just flow directly into your mind. It makes the isolation real.
This raises an important question, and it's something I hope you'll ponder long after we wrap up today. We've established that the real fight out there on the water wasn't against the marlin, but against age, doubt, the loss of reputation, and ultimate pride.
Right.
If Santiago's true battle was against his own ego out there in the Gulf Stream, does his final return from the sea represent a crushing defeat by the forces of nature? Or does it actually signify that by enduring it all without losing his dignity, he finally conquered his own ego out there in the vast emptiness of the ocean?
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for this deep dive. We really hope this exploration has inspired you to grab some headphones, seek out this incredible audio experience, and maybe find a little bit of that quiet heroism in whatever you are enduring today. Until next time.